Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our first guest has been a neuroscience professor at the University of Oregon for over 30 years. When she discovered meditation over 40 years ago, it rocked her scientific world and what she thought she knew about the brain and consciousness. We welcome the author of Infinite Awareness, Dr. Marjorie Woollacott. Good to have you with us, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's begin. How does a neuroscience professor become involved in meditation?
Well, I should say that I was strongly immersed in neuroscience as a graduate student and postdoctoral fellow and as a new faculty member in Virginia. And at that same time, my sister had begun meditating, and she invited me to a meditation retreat on the East Coast.
Okay.
And what happened in the first meditation session of that retreat, I came skeptically, of course, but curious. And I had this amazing experience in that first meditation session of energy inside of like the core of my body beginning to radiate outward, and it was an energy that felt like love and joy, like all mixed up into one, but bigger than any love or joy I'd experienced before. And I had this sense of, wow, this is my real home. It's my heart. My heart is my home. And along with that, I had the sense of a new energetic connection with other people and other things on the planet that I'd never had before, which was not my usual scientific understanding of the world. And when I went back home after that meditation retreat, my worldview had turned around 180 degrees, and I spontaneously began to get up every morning and meditate because I wanted to get back to that state of this joy and this ecstasy that I felt was like simmering right underneath the surface of my awareness.
How does that conflict with science and what you've learned scientifically?
Well, as a scientist, I grew up as a materialist, which means that basically my conscious awareness is simply the product of the neurons in my brain, and that's it. And what happened in this meditation was that I began to feel energy inside of my body that was very, very much beyond what I'd ever experienced as a scientist, never believed was possible as a scientist. So I think my question became, is consciousness perhaps more than just the activity of neurons in my brain? Could I have an energetic connection within myself and with other beings in the world that actually goes beyond this?
Wow. You interviewed a doctor who said she had an afterlife experience or a near-death experience.
Near-death experience.
Near-death experience. Explain that.
Yes, so this was Bettina Payton, an MD who basically, when she was 2 years out of medical school during the birth of her second child, was basically undergoing a cesarean section. She was in under anesthesia. Her eyes were taped shut. Her heart stopped during the cesarean section. And she said at that moment, she began to feel her awareness like shifting outside of her body, and she actually was able to watch everything that went on in that operating room during the time they were trying to resuscitate her. And this was many, many minutes that this happened.
Wow.
And afterwards, she said that just as they were finishing up getting her heart beating again, a woman told her, "You had a little baby girl." She heard this again, even though her eyes were taped shut. She was under anesthesia. When she woke up in the recovery room, she said to her husband and the other people around her, "I just want you to know that I know I had a baby girl. I know my heart stopped. I know my uterus is out," because she had a hysterectomy. And no one in the hospital could understand how she could know under our normal scientific understanding of awareness.
So what does that say to you then?
It tells me that our scientific understanding needs to expand just a little bit in terms of our understanding of what consciousness or awareness really is. And I believe that it's telling us that consciousness is much more than just the product of the neurons in our brain, that we have access to a larger consciousness. Sometimes, not every moment of our day, not every single person, but sometimes we can have access to this, and one of the places we have it is in near-death experiences, also in meditation, things like that.
Does that near-death experience say something about the afterlife?
I think it does. I think it says that consciousness continues on beyond the death of the body. I don't know what that afterlife would necessarily be, but I really believe that we are consciously aware, and we take that consciousness with us into whatever happens after the body dies.
And what are your thoughts then on energy healing? Because some people use that and believe strongly in that.
Right. And I actually teach an alternative and complementary medicine class at the University of Oregon, and I teach energy healing as one of the things we discuss in that class. And there is very interesting research on the fact that energy healing is much more just a placebo effect, much more than just the feeling that you're actually getting better. They can actually show that energy healing by Reiki masters, for example, this is like at Yale University Medical School, they've actually shown that people get the effects of improvement in, for example, their cardiac state that is the equivalent of pharmaceutical drugs. In other words, you don't need to take the pharmaceutical drugs, you can take Reiki healing, and this is again from Yale University.
Explain how Reiki healing works, because a lot of people don't understand how it works.
What it is a person who is a trained healer actually is trained to allow energy from the universe, this more non-local energy, to actually flow through them and through their hands, for example, into somebody else's body. And it's not that you are giving that to somebody else, but you're allowing this universal energy to actually flow through you.
Why do you think mainstream doctors and scientists are kind of poo-pooing this kind of idea, thinking in terms of the way you're thinking?
I think it was because, just like me, we are trained in our scientific model, what I would call the Newtonian model, that the world is a materialistic universe and nothing else actually exists. And because we grew up with that model as scientists, it's very, very frightening to hear people say these things that don't really fit into our model. We don't know how that could actually occur, and we don't know another alternative to our model. And I think all I'm saying is that that model is certainly useful, but I think the model needs to expand a little bit to include the idea that consciousness can actually be more than just the materialist.
And can't we believe in both?
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. And I think that we are beginning now, more and more scientists are beginning to expand and integrate this second view of the world into our materialist perspective.
What do you want the readers to take away from your book, you think?
I think that a lot of readers have had spiritual experiences, and they actually also live in this culture of scientific materialism, and I want them to be able to accept that their spiritual experiences actually are real and valid, and that there are ways of actually integrating that experience into our understanding of how the universe works.
Fascinating. All right, I want to tell folks it's The Science of Meditation. Marjorie Woollacott, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.